Bannock. Bannock was introduced to the natives in the 1600s. It wasn't invented by the First Nations, it was invented by the Europeans. Well, from Scotland. The word means biscuit in Scottish. The flour came from the Europeans in the fur trade, and they also introduced the sugar. And the First Nations used lard as like butter and it's fat. So they would take the animal and take the fat from it, and then they would cook it and it would turn into liquid, and then it would turn white, and then they would use it as lard. First Nations, they really liked Bannock because it would last for a really long time and it wouldn't break apart, so it was really sturdy. And they would put berries in it and things. They would eat it with jam. They'd also put fish in the middle, and they would eat it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And so then fry bread is similar, but it's not the same. It is more of an American thing because they would give the First Nations rations of like lard or butter and stuff like that, and it would be old and they couldn't feed it to everyone because they'd get sick. So they had to feed them somehow, so they cooked the butter and it would make it like edible. So they would take the bannock and fry it in that like weird like batter stuff, lard, and they would take flour. And that was fry bread. But it broke, so they didn't like it as much. They liked Bannock better.
Welcome to Zoe and Maddie's cooking show. Today we're going to be focusing on Bannock. You will need
Water,
salt, baking powder,
sugar,
butter. First step of making Bannock is of course preheating your oven to 350 degrees Celsius.
After you have preheated the oven, mix all your dry ingredients together. The first step is to mix all the dry ingredients into one big bowl. First, there's 4 cups of flour.
Next, we're going to add half a cup of sugar,
4 tablespoons of baking powder.
and last but not least, 1½ teaspoons of salt. After we finish adding all the dry ingredients into one main bowl, we are going to add half a block or half a pound of butter.
After mixing in all the dry ingredients and butter, they add 2 cups of warm water.
When the First Nations people initially started making Bannock, they used a stick over an open fire, and they turned it and baked it in that way. Later on, when the Europeans came in, they introduced the cast iron pan. This way, they could put the Bannock in the pan and turn it around inside of the fire. Traditionally, the First Nations would use lard to grease their pans, but today we're going to be using oil.
Since traditionally First Nations people cooked their bannock over an open fire, we obviously can't do that, so we're doing it in an oven. So you bake it for 45 minutes to an hour at 350 degrees Celsius.
Well, sounds like time's up.
Bannock.
That looks like some good bannock, if you ask me.
Yeah. Bannock is a food that could be eaten for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks. People put berries in it or Saskatoon berries to make it sweet.
Also, a lot of the time they would put the layer of bannock down and then put any kind of fish they had in that area in between to make it more dinnery or lunchy, you could say, and then add another layer on top, and then they'd cook it that way. Yeah, little
Bannocky sandwich.
Wow, I learned so much from making this bannock. And it's tasty too! Cheers!
My great-grandma was European. Maybe she met your grandma.
No!
Okay.
Oh!
Yeah, for traveling. Seriously?
Just keep this whole thing going.
Okay.
I'll put it up.
Okay!
Why don't we take out like the top?
Ooh, is it hot? Yeah! It's not even showing Maddie. Oh, Tay!
Tin for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
And snacks.
And snacks.
Okay, just go. I'm just done.
Do you want me to say snacks?
And snacks! And snacks, okay? You can't forget snacks.